Hello and welcome to Brass Chat. Brass Chat is the weekly Brass Bands England show hosted on our Facebook page. You can watch it live, or we also have a recording up on our YouTube channel as well for you to catch up later. We usually are joined with our education team and some other members of the BBE staff who are interviewing all sorts of people in banding and beyond. But this week we're doing something slightly different and we're actually interviewing another member of our staff. Welcome, Sam Fisher. How are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, good. Thanks. You?
Yeah, good. Lots going on at BBE. So excited to chat to you about what you're doing in your little world in the Brass Band England team.
Busy times.
Definitely. So why don't you tell us first just a little bit about your role at Brass Bands England, what it is that you do?
Okay, so I'm the safeguarding officer for Brass Bands England, which involves the in-house side of safeguarding. So that's obviously looking after the staff first and foremost, but the events that we run, things like the youth championships that are coming up, the Europeans, anything like that we have kind of outreach involvement with, that's a huge part of what I do. So as some of you will know, we look after child performance licensing, the BBE BOPA that we have, and we utilise that in a way that obviously safeguards the members, particularly children at those events. So as well as that, I deal with possibly to the members, more importantly, their queries, their concerns, any issues they may have. And we have our flagship BandSafe programme, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly. DBS checks, which is a huge part of what we do. Obviously, it's only on a background level, really, initially, but we do have a lot of questions about things like that. And again, I'm sure we'll discuss that in the next few minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing that we now are at the point where we have an established safeguarding officer whose time is dedicated to supporting bands and dealing directly with safeguarding. It's always something that's been really, really important to us. But through the development of the BandSafe programme and all that to get to this point is just amazing that we've been able to hand off and to have someone dedicated delivering it, where we were at a point when it had first been established that kind of myself and my colleague were delivering it among all the other things that we were doing, and now to have someone that's focused on doing that is absolutely brilliant. That was a really big step for the team, for us to have you coming in November 2020.
Yeah, November.
Yeah, amazing. So obviously a lot of what you do is supporting bands with their safeguarding needs, as well as looking at BBE internally. So a broad outline, why do bands need to think about safeguarding? Why is it something that needs to be high on their agenda?
Yeah, I mean, safeguarding is still relatively new, in inverted commas. It's something that, coming from a teaching background, I've kind of been maybe more acutely aware of than some others, particularly in the voluntary sector. But it is fairly new. It's been in the last 20 years or so that things have really developed, particularly in terms of adult safeguarding. Yeah. Prior to that, there were child protection policies and things in place. But I think historically, and this is where we're kind of at as brass banders now, nowadays it's kind of crucial that everybody has a safeguarding policy, but more importantly, knows how to use it. And I think that's a kind of sign of where we're up to, in the sense that bands are really kind of grasping how to use the safeguarding policy in order to safeguard their members, where historically it was just policy documents. It was things that people did because they had to do. Yeah. So it's really encouraging to actually see the effectiveness of people safeguarding within their organisations, and actually seeing that people engage with that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just from seeing the huge shift in even the last couple of years has been incredible. So like you say, safeguarding for lots of people isn't new at all, particularly people working in schools. It's just so ingrained in what they do, but it hasn't been ingrained in banding activity. And certainly if you look at where we were at when I was first delivering the BandSafe training in April 2019, April 2019 was the first course, and our first tour that we did of delivering that training, as from broad strokes, the approach to safeguarding, the awareness to safeguarding has grown exponentially throughout that time. And I do feel that we are at a place where the vast majority of the community really understands that it's necessary and really, really understands that it's vital to engage with it, which is an enormous win, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So through obviously we're going to talk about the training in a little bit, because that's one element of what we do, but obviously just the kind of the member support and all of the other little bits and bobs that you do are a big part of it as well. But I know that working with other organisations is obviously key, and there are some long-standing partnerships that we've had, but also newer ones that have come up just because of the safeguarding work. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think you obviously mentioned the BandSafe training. It was initially delivered, albeit a kind of big process that led to this point. But in 2019, in April, as you say, was the first course. So the initial development was done in conjunction with the NSPCC. And then since then, we've worked closely with the NSPCC to upgrade, update what we do and just make sure that everything is kind of in line with current safeguarding legislation, but practice as well, current safeguarding practices and the best things for people to do. Obviously, on a professional level, working in schools, etc., as you've mentioned, it is slightly different to the voluntary sector, but it's about making those people in the voluntary sector aware of what's going on. So we have a really good relationship, and I've worked very recently with the NSPCC to develop the most recent course, to make sure that everything's there. The policy advice that we give is all kind of in line with what it should be, but also really just to be able to put something out to bands that is approved and accepted on that level as well is really great. We have our most recent partnership is with the EFDSS, or EFDS as we affectionately refer to them. They're the English Folk Dance and Song Society, and we're now looking at developing FolkSafe. So really, it's very much in line with the BandSafe course. It's a kind of folk side of that. It's a folk course or a FolkSafe course that's the same sort of content, but delivered in a way that is perhaps more appropriate to what they do, and the kind of folk bands that they're involved with working with. So we've actually got a launch for that. At time of recording, we've got a launch for that tomorrow. So I'm sure by the time this goes out, it'll be that will be done, and hopefully the ball will be well and truly rolling with that.
Yeah, and I think that's EFDS have been a great partner for quite a while now. We've been in conversation for a long time, because although the type of stuff we deliver and the kind of type of communities that we work in aren't immediately similar, actually there's so many similarities in the kind of way that we interact, and particularly on a safeguarding level there's a lot of similarities. It's voluntary sector. A lot of the work that certainly Folk does is informal, but they do a lot of their own producing and their own events that are very much within the sector. So there's loads of similarities there, which is really great.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the conversations we've had, myself and Alex, who obviously works for BBE. We've had a lot of conversations around the kind of parallels with the brass band movement, the multi-generational grouping of people, people coming together from all different generations, all different backgrounds, and just ensuring a safe environment for everybody. And again, we may go into this later, but it's about adult safeguarding as well as child safeguarding. Yeah,
and I think it's such a credit to the work that you've done to build the BandSafe package, to build and develop it, and that great work with NSPCC and the relationship that's with NSPCC and the Disclosure and Barring Service that's been really solidified in the last couple of years, that we are getting approached by other organisations to say, actually, no, you're doing something here that we can't really find anywhere else. And I think that's a real credit to the work that's gone on behind the scenes, that maybe members don't always see the nitty-gritty that's kind of going on in the background to get it to where it is now.
Yeah, I think it's, as with anything, it's an ongoing development, isn't it? And it's not just the development of the week in, week out training of people, because obviously as a teacher I kind of try and keep things as fresh as I can, but it's about taking something that exists in the format it does, and just as we've said, being able to then deliver it in other contexts, which is really great.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to the members, and which is, I know, a lot of your day-to-day that you deal with, what's an issue that you get asked about quite regularly? What's a common problem that bands will come to you with?
I mean, the main issues are around DBS checks, and I've kind of alluded to this a little bit already, that the thing to remember about DBS checks is that they are background checks. So when we're talking about engaging with people within an organisation, or encouraging, allowing people to engage, particularly with children, it's just the first step. And I do find that there are a lot of questions about that. And it's really great that people come forward and say, who needs a DBS check? Why do they need one? How do we go about doing it? All those kind of things. But that's just the first step. And it's really great to have that contact with people to be able to then say, this is where you're at. And if this is the kind of level we're looking at, it's only really the start of it. So we're obviously in a position then to kind of encourage, guide people, sort of hold people's hand to some extent through the process of ensuring that everything else that then follows that is in place.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really easy to see a DBS check as a nice tick box, but it's as we often say, it's just one line of defence when it comes to safeguarding. There's so much more that you can and should be doing to ensure that the culture of your organisation is in a situation where you're doing your best preventative work to protect the people that you're working with. And I know that you are there and spend a lot of time just supporting members through difficult situations, being there as just, a sounding off point. And I think that's such a valuable thing just to have that check-in with someone, because with people who are doing, a safeguarding officer role in a voluntary capacity, just having that extra ear can be so, so valuable.
Yeah, I think a lot of safeguarding is policy based, and it's very easy to kind of see it as, and much like the DBS thing, it's, you do your DBS check, you've got a certificate, congratulations, off you go. There's so much more to it than that. And I think it's very easy to look at the policy side of it and almost just think that once you've ticked that box, that's it. But actually I feel that we're very much trying to encourage people to engage on a level that is practical. It's, you're actively safeguarding. And by looking at the different sort of strands of safeguarding, if you like, or, anything from sort of welcome packs and medical information, all the things that we need to kind of store and have in place. But actually by looking at that, it generates conversations. And a huge part of the training is conversations that people have with each other, the questions at the end, the kind of chats, and the sort of realization for a lot of people as well that actually they can do more and they should do more.
Yeah, 100%. So we've mentioned the training a couple of times, but just so for anyone who hasn't accessed what we have to offer, what is the safeguarding offering that Brass Bands England has for its members and non-members to access?
So we have the BandSafe is the kind of the banner, if you like, and under the BandSafe banner, under the BandSafe initiative, we have the training course itself, which is something that if people haven't engaged with, they've probably not fully accessed or seen all the kind of strands of safeguarding, which we've just been talking about. We do offer a certain amount to non-members, just simply because we feel it's too important to keep it to ourselves and kind of not share that information. Also, I feel it encourages people to engage, and it really gets people to kind of sit up and look at what they're doing. So we have something called the BandSafe Toolkit, which some of you will be familiar with. And that is a policy writing toolkit, which is essentially a yes, no, have you done this? Is this, does this feature in your policy? Is it there? Is it effective? Is it working? And really it goes through a process then of either analysing an existing policy or creating a new policy. So that is available to members and non-members. However, all these things kind of link in then to the child performance side of things. So we have the Brass Bands England BOPA or BOPA, which is the child performance licence or the exemption to a child performance licence that we can issue to certain members. Of course, what you need to do to be able to access that is to undertake the training and to be simply because we have to be able to authorise that people are doing things properly. So you've got to kind of engage with the full package. And I think it's really great that once people get into that, they really see the benefit and the effect then of their child performance licensing benefits. It just makes life so much easier for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's such an amazing package of stuff there, and it's so varied. There is the training course, which is so valuable, and it's really valuable because you get a lot of people now that we deliver it essentially always online, because that's what's been requested, which has been great that the pandemic has really challenged us to do that and have that offering. But the toolkit that's there for you to work through, so it is really quite a hybrid offering to get people to grips with safeguarding in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah, and I think it's something that as we've sort of said, you kind of buy into, and I don't mean that in a financial sense, but you buy into the idea that safeguarding is important. Yeah. And because it's constantly developing, once you're kind of in that loop, I think, the new resources we come up with, both you and I have been working a little bit on DBS resources, video resources, again, for child performance license, as well as the DBS stuff. And I think it's obviously important for us to continue that development and just to keep introducing new things. There's another kind of new thing that's going to be coming out, a check and challenge tool, which I'm not going to say too much about now, but that's something that people can look out for in the future. So there's always somewhere to go with it. And I think really the whole kind of concept behind safeguarding is that you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on, keep things up to date, and actually just by doing that, you are safeguarding your members because you're thinking about it.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, there's a few new resources that are going to be coming out soon, some that we're thinking about for future, but there's always cogs moving in terms of what we're developing in the background, definitely. So thinking about that then, what on a personal level, what do you want to see for the future of BandSafe and the BBE safeguarding offering?
So I suppose at the moment, a lot of my focus is on developing the FolkSafe side of it, which is really kind of promising. We're going to do this launch and just see how things go. But if we can get the same level of engagement from the folk sector as we do from the band sector, I'm probably going to need somebody else to work alongside me, to be honest, at some point. But it'd be great to see even more bands engaging with it and just coming forward and kind of saying, we need that help. I find for me the most rewarding process really in the last, what we're talking, probably 15 months or so now that I've been with Brass Bands England. And I'm always surprised at the people that come forward and say, so what's this safeguarding? What should we be doing? And actually taking somebody on that journey from nothing, if you like, right through to kind of going, actually, we feel like we've got things in place, and we're also now seeing the ease and the benefit of having those things in place to kind of, not only to tick the boxes that we have to tick on a legislative level, but to actively then put things in place to look after people. And it encourages conversations within the organisation then about safeguarding. So it's really rewarding, really, for me to see. And I'm always quite surprised and taken back by the phone calls of, so what do we need to do? We haven't got anything in place. But equally, it's great for me to take people on that journey and to kind of show them where they need to go and how they need to proceed with it.
Yeah, and I think we, for the rest of the team, we see that knock-on effect as well, because I head up all of the education work at Brass Bands England, so we do link in quite a lot with safeguarding, obviously, but a lot of the bands and that I deal with will often be rooted to the education programme because they've first stepped into safeguarding, they've got all that stuff together, they've felt really confident that they can actually, yes, I can now look forward to our youth programme, and we can really do that well. And so I often see the kind of ripple effect work that focusing on your safeguarding can do, which is really brilliant. And it's always so encouraging for me when I have bands come get in touch saying, we really want to enhance our youth provision. And if they, in that email, they say, we've just done our safeguarding training and we've been really enthused on the back of it, that's always such a promising thing for me, and gives everyone that bit of confidence that you're invested in doing it properly. From all sorts of things, from funders' point of view, from Music Education Hub's point of view, from all these other stakeholders that you might want to bring on board, it goes a massive way to show that you're there for the right reasons and want to do the best for the young people that you're working with, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to kind of get the message across to bands that on a consumer level nowadays, people want to engage with organisations, they want to engage with people that do things properly. And they want to be able to, if you're going to send your children somewhere, for example, to a youth band, to kind of use that very obvious example of good safeguarding, you want to know that you're sending your children somewhere that is a safe environment. Your children are going to be, and we're not just talking about DBS checks, background checks, we're talking about actively looking after those children, having procedures in place to ensure that, cyberbullying, online bullying, all these different things that come into safeguarding are things that are monitored and things that are taken seriously.
Yeah, Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been great to hear about all of the stuff that's going behind the scenes. And I hope there are members and non-members watching who have been enlightened to all of the safeguarding work that does go on. And if you haven't taken advantage of all the stuff that we offer, lots of it for free, please do have a look. And particularly the BandSafe Toolkit is a great place to start in terms of making sure that what you have is up to date and accurate and doing the best for your members. So I'd encourage you to start there. But you can go onto the BBE website and find loads of information about safeguarding advice, but also Sam's contact details should you want to get in touch to chat with him further. Thanks so much, Sam, and we'll see you next week for another Brass Chat.
Thank you. Cheers, Sarah.